Welcome to Deep End No Floaties, the show that explores major life transitions, whether they are by choice or life has just punched you in the face. The goal of this podcast is to learn from others who are going through the same thing and just explore the stories of being human. Sometimes the best medicine is just knowing that we are all in this life thing together. And we always start with the most embarrassing stories. I'm your host, Kim Flynn, and today we're going to explore and talk about what to do when you feel like you are failing as a parent. So we're so excited to talk to Jess today. Jessica is the...
I'm ready now.
So we're so excited to talk to Jessica today. Jessica is the founder of Triton Support Services, and she is passionate about supporting education by providing parent coaching, multisensory evaluations, and education therapy. As a mother of 5, Ms. Engel is passionate about connecting parents to their children by reminding them of their intuitive abilities as parents and caregivers that makes them the most well-equipped educators for all stages. And that's why I'm so excited to talk to Jess today. As a mom of a special needs daughter, Jess has really been helping me say, what do you intuitively know for your child? So I so appreciate having her here today. She empowers parents to show up in the center of their children's education. Her innovative style and dedication to parents help her create programs that are both practical and effective. She lives in sunny San Diego, where she loves to do yoga, explore all the beaches, and live life to the fullest with her wife and dog. So welcome, Miss Jess.
Hello, Kimber.
Awesome. So first, a word from our sponsor. Deep End No Floaties is brought to you by Card Salad. It's a health and wellness company that teaches you how to systematize habits. Their flagship product is Eat Well, a weekly meal planning system that provides a complete meal planning system and habit stacking. The goal is to, let me do that again. So first of all, a word from our sponsor, Deep End No Floaties. It's brought to you by Card Salad, a health and wellness company that teaches you how to systematize habits. Their flagship product is Eat Well, a weekly meal planning system that provides a complete meal planning system and habit stacking. The goal is to never diet again. Visit cardsalad.com. And you'll see a jingle here. Jingle, jingle, jingle.
Yum.
All right, Jess, let's get into it then. I'm so excited to chat with you. But first, we always start with most embarrassing stories. And I know you were horrified to share yours. And so I'm especially intrigued to hear yours. So I think we're going to hear a poop story. Take it away, Jess.
I am terrified to tell this story.
Good.
So this is a real demonstration of my vulnerability. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity always, Kim, to
You're welcome. To embarrass you.
Step out on the skinny branches and just fall.
It's my gift.
So I was thinking of just the most horrible, most embarrassing thing that's ever happened in my life. And I went right to the moment of the thing I have never told anybody. It was right after delivering my first child, actually my second child, but first child naturally. And, going through the childbirth process is not something that we're all familiar with. And especially for the first time, we're asking our doctors a lot of questions. So I asked my doctor, what can I expect after the delivery and what do I need to do? And he said, the number one thing that I would recommend is you take these stool softeners. It's just going to make your life so much easier.
Oh, dear.
Well, little did I know I didn't need them. And what it did was just open the floodgates. So it was like 3 a.m. I'm like in the rocking chair in my little hospital room and my son latches on for the first time. And we're having this moment and I'm like looking in his eyes and it was so sweet. And then I felt the gurgle. And I was like, it's not a big deal. Just pass some gas. No, it was a big deal because the floodgates just opened and I was like, nurse.
You're making me cry, Jess.
So that happened.
So you're sitting in the rocking chair and just everywhere, all over you.
Yeah, lovely. Luckily I had been gifted this muumuu of a nightgown, and like I kind of just scooped it up between my legs and waddled to the bathroom and got it off and called the nurse. And but it was like, welcome to motherhood.
Time to poop your pants. I love it. Well, thanks for sharing bravely on that. All right, let's get into it. We're going to talk today about what to do when you feel like you're failing as a mother. I would love to start out with just your story. Tell us your story. I want to hear.
Yeah, kind of interesting that that was the funny story that I started off with because I was very young. I was 19 when I had my first child, but before that, um, I had a stepdaughter. I had gotten married and got married at 18, and that was really young. And I just really felt ill-equipped to be a parent because of my own upbringing. So my own upbringing was that my mother has paranoid schizophrenia, and she was diagnosed right after I was born. So we were separated, kind of at birth. And I had a whole interesting upbringing where my mother not being a part of my life really had me thinking that I was not going to be a mother. I actually said that, like, I don't have a mother. That means I don't know how to be a mother, and I will not be a mother. I remember my fifth grade teacher challenging me. He was like, "You're just saying that right now, but you will get married, you will have children." But I was adamant, like, it's just not going to be the thing for me.
Pretty presumptuous of a fifth grade teacher, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so you had no interest in being a mom and you were like, I'm not going to do that. And then what happened?
And then what happened was growing up with a single father, I was kind of a latchkey kid. I did a lot of things on my own. I was very independent. I kind of grew up in nature. But when someone tried to structure me or put some rules around me, I really rebelled. And so I found myself moving away from home and really just living independently from age 15 on.
Hmm.
And by 18, I was like ready to settle down. I was ready to be in a relationship, which is kind of an interesting aspect now looking back at settling down at age 18.
Settling down at 18. Yeah.
But that was my perspective. And I had actually had quite a bit of life experience at that time. And one of the guys that I met had a daughter, and she was 2 years old at the time. And I fell in love with her. And I fell in love with the idea of a family,
Hmm.
of having this, already set child and husband.
Hmm.
And, it was kind of my little fantasy ending or kind of a beginning of what started something new about I could be a parent because this child was very similar to me. She also had a mother that had left, and she also was with a single father who had full custody.
Hmm.
So she and I just related. And when I was with her, I thought, we're just meant to be together. I already had this experience and I have something to teach you or help you. And, little do we know when we become parents that we actually learn a lot more from them than they learn from us. And so she's been one of my biggest teachers in life.
So a couple of interesting things in there. You said I fell in love with the 2-year-old. I fell in love with the daughter. Um, I have to go here because it's interesting. Did you fall in love with the man too, or mostly you fell in love with the daughter and the idea of family?
Um, yeah, he was a great guy. I don't have anything negative to say about him. But what I did fall in love was with her and with the family unit and with the idea of having family.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was something I hadn't ever had. It was something I had not experienced. And that's really what I fell in love with.
I think it's interesting that you saw this girl in the same position that you were in at 2 years old. Was there some kind of like, um, I can step in here and almost fix my own past. Like I can make it up to this girl, you know?
Yes, very much. And I think I had done that my whole childhood,
Mhm.
looking at different people that I played with.
Mhm.
A lot of the time, it was that I saw us as being different. And in that, we're related. And so I had, friends that were in wheelchairs or friends that were in special ed classrooms or I really gravitated toward people who had other lifestyles. And so if I could find that connection, it was like it was really heartfelt. It was really where I always wanted to be. And I didn't care much about popularity, and I didn't really think it through other than I want to be close to people who feel different, like
Mm.
I do.
Mhm. So interesting. So you were the girl on the playground, picking up the bird that fell from the nest and just caretaking the
Yes,
things that you
caretaking
found.
everywhere.
Caretaking. How much of that do you think was because of your childhood, and how much do you think that was just because of your natural personality?
Um,
Nature and nurture. Solve it right now. Nature, nurture.
yeah, what I learned was to experience love through a mother-child relationship, through different experiences.
Oh, okay.
And because I didn't have a natural mother, what I had were really great mother models. My
Hmm.
best friend's mother, I took her, like, if you can just pick and choose any mother and have that be your model, that's what I did.
Mm.
And so I would really look to those people who loved me unconditionally, who shared with me, insights with as a parent. And so I just like collected all those juicy pieces, and then I would offer them back to my friends. And
Hmm.
so it was within that experience of like getting, giving, getting, giving,
Hmm.
that I was perpetually just stuck in this place of looking to who I can connect with, and then how can I also get back from that.
Hmm. It reminds me of that book. Do you know that kid's book? I bet you do. The Are You My Mother? This little lost, I don't know, duck or something just goes around asking
Sure.
everyone, "Are you my mother? Are you my mother?" So you're just like looking to reenact almost that mother childhood relationship that's so
Yeah.
critical and you didn't have. And so you were not only seeking out mother roles, you were also being a mother role. Everything is just trying to recreate that mother child relationship.
Right.
It's fascinating and so sweet and tender and heartbreaking all at the same time, you know?
Yeah. At
Yeah.
the time going through it, I I had a different perspective than I do now. Now I
Mm.
have a lot of compassion for that little girl.
Yeah.
Um, but that little girl actually thought it was the most wonderful adventure. So, it's great to be able to grow up and see the different perspective of um, how we can actually nurture the child differently than we were nurtured. And so, to get back to your question of, did it heal me to be offering things for my children? Yes. And I actually received that in therapy when I was pregnant. And I was like, I don't have any idea how to do this. I'm already in over my head with this little stepdaughter, and I need help. I went to therapy, and the therapist explained to me, you have two opportunities to have a parent child relationship.
Mm-hmm.
One is the one that you were given, and you don't have a whole lot of choice. You have zero choice in how that relationship fell out.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a second opportunity when you become a parent to really create the life for them that you would have wanted for yourself. And in that process, really heal anything from your past.
Mm-hmm. Do you
And
think
I
that?
definitely did that. I poured everything into my pregnancy and raising my children, that I felt like this was everything I would have wanted as a child, or that I deserved as a child, to be unconditionally loved, to be nurtured, to be picked up as many times as you want to be picked up, or snuggled with when you want someone to snuggle with.
Mm-hmm.
Those things that I never had access to, I gave it all away. And in
So
that
true.
process, I got it back.
So you poured yourself into motherhood. Walk us through all the different types of motherhood, that because you have a stepchild at this point, a 2-year-old stepchild, and then you have a brand new baby that you poop all over. Who
I didn't poop on him.
Give us all the rest of the iterations of parenting that you've taken on.
Yeah, I started off with the stepdaughter,
Mhm.
and I don't call her my stepdaughter. She is my
She's your
daughter.
daughter. Yeah.
And then I had three children naturally with the man that I married. And then it was about 12 years later when I discovered that we were not in a great, loving marriage, and that was not working for me. And I fell in love with a woman.
Mhm.
And this started a blended family because she had a son. So, on top of the interesting family dynamic that I already created, we brought in another child who had been an only child. So I've really had so many different insights about different parenting dynamics. I've had it all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So interesting that the title and the topic of this podcast today is failing as a parent. Because right now I hear your mom's fails, and not being available to you at all. But it feels like you have gone above and beyond to be the absolute best parent that you could be. Talk to me about why you felt like, or if you do still feel like you're failing as a parent.
Yeah, I do. I always, yeah, it's something that's quite ingrained, and we certainly don't have everything ever figured out. And so I'm a continuing student.
Mm.
I always am looking for more information. And what I love about what's opening up now is that moms, parents, caregivers are sharing with each other
Mhm.
what works and what doesn't work and offering insights. But I certainly feel like I'm floundering a lot. I'm 45 years old. I've had a lot of life experience crammed into these 45 years. I look at it and I'm just in awe because some of my friends are just starting their family right now.
Mhm.
But I really jumped in the deep end of the pool with no floaties
At 18.
at 18.
At 18.
And I feel like I've been in the deep end the whole time.
Mhm.
But the awesome thing about that is how much you learn.
Mhm.
It's like it's a different path in life if you're just thrown into the shallow end and you're standing there, no effort. And I think a lot of people have been handed that privileged opportunity to not have struggle.
Mhm.
But I really do feel like it is a blessing and an opportunity to be pushed into the deep end of the pool with no floaties, because it's allowed me to really rise to the top and find every solution beyond what I would have done had I been given a natural parent-child relationship.
You said
And
something.
recently, I've really come full circle with my grandmother, like
Talk to me about
really
that.
understanding the gift it was that she was in my life
Mm.
because I didn't have a mother. This is my father's mother who stepped in,
Mhm.
and she offered me a whole different kind of life, a whole different kind of love, the grandmother love.
Mhm.
And that's just, I think when we look at our ancestors, when we look at the lineage of the mothers who have been teaching, that gets handed down from generation to generation to generation, and the opportunity that we have now as parents looking toward a bright future with a whole new type of child, we really need those grandmother instincts. And my grandmother really helped me tap into that.
That's so sweet and a great perspective. Let's go back to you feeling like you're failing as a parent. So imagine yourself at 18 years old, brand new mother of a 2-year-old, or at 22 with probably 3 kids at that point, or whatever, however many it was, and you feel like you're absolutely failing. What would you go back, 45-year-old Jess? What would 45-year-old Jess go back and tell young, struggling mama Jess?
Yeah, when I was young, struggling Mama Jess, I did a lot of research. I spent a lot of time in the library and reading books. And I loved that. So I would always recommend like getting information. But I think that we have spent so much effort looking toward outside resources when we don't have what we think we need.
Mm.
And that outside searching becomes crippling. So I had found a book, I think it was like What to Expect When You're Expecting. And I thought it was like a Bible, like they send this to you in the mail. It must be something serious. Everyone needs to live by this. And it must be written by someone decades ago, because it was like, we need to schedule and we need to, it had like all of these things like, this is how you're going to parent. And I really took it on like, this is how I was going to do it. I remember my son was about 3 months old and I was exhausted. I had gotten up in the middle of the night and we were in the rocking chair together and he had nursed and fallen asleep. And then I was like, okay, I got to get him back into his crib. And I put him in his crib and he started crying. And I'm just at the side of the crib, like, when you're like so sleep deprived and so just done, and I just don't know what else to do, and I'm like following the book, It's not working. And it was like the pit of despair. And I picked him up and I hugged him and I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not listening to the book. And I went and I threw it in the garbage. And I held him and we slept together for the first time. And it was the most magical moment where I really understood that there's nothing that beats your own intuition.
So that's when you figured it out. Listen to myself, or started to figure it out when your son was 3 months old. Talk to me about where you've had that wrestle in since then, from listening to others versus listening to your own intuition, and how you've developed that intuition.
Yeah, it is something that I learned to tap into as a child. I think my friends gave me a really great experience of, I think the experience of learning together. And that's something that I've had an opportunity to do with my children just through their schooling. And just looking at schooling, I've done private school, public school, homeschool, you name it, we've tried it. And I think that's the first place that parents go when we're done with the toddler age. And then we're like, okay, I want to find something. And that's where we start looking outside. Or what are the solutions? And so when I did that with my first daughter, I found a Montessori school. And that Montessori school ended up being a really wonderful model for my children and for me, where I could look at developing the whole child and really finding an education that could match them where they were. And then that started feeling aligned to me, of like finding the right education that meets their needs. And did I get away from your question?
You're good. I'm interested in exploring how you developed your intuition.
Yeah, it was really in that experience of like looking toward outside things and then also bringing them back and seeing how it feels with me. Does it feel aligned to what my child wants? And then does it feel aligned to what I would have wanted as a child? And I think that's how, we can really relate to our children and, really ask ourselves, is this something that I would like? Is this something that I would have liked to have done for me when I was a child? And always taking both perspectives and really, looking toward outside resources, but understanding that the outside resource is just a guide to then have you check internally to see if you're aligned intuitively.
Talk to me about, so two different paths I want to explore. Talk to me about how working with your teenager who's gone through struggles has helped you further develop that intuition and what you've found with solutions with her. Let's start there.
Yeah, it's been an interesting time with my youngest daughter. She graduated high school before COVID and was enrolled in a university. And after about the first semester, we noticed she was really struggling. And we've noticed before, like hyperactivity and other things in her adolescence and childhood, but it never really got in the way of her education. But when she left for university, this was the first time that it became crippling, like really not able to get to class, not able to study, because of the anxiety and just activity that was occurring in her body. So we had her come home, and then COVID happened. And that was like, we all experience COVID in a different way, but it is a traumatic experience. So that traumatic experience on top of coming home from college really put her into isolation. And so I went back to what I learned as a young mother, knowing that, we want to look for all these outside resources. We need help. I need an expert. The first thing I do, because I've been working in the mental health field, is I look for a really great specialist And I found a really great specialist, and it's wonderful. She gave us a wonderful diagnostic report and really broke everything down so we can understand everything that's happening. But then it's back to us. Like, what do we do to really support her? And so we've been able to come, like, really partner up together, my daughter and I, with finding the solutions. And it was really cute the other night because as we were working through some of the things she's doing in therapy, like she actually got what I'm doing as a career with Triton Support Services. She was like, "Oh, this is what you're talking about. Moms know best because they're
Yay!
listening to their child." And I was like, "Yes, this is what we're doing, connecting mothers to children,
That leads
parents
us
to children."
really well into my next question I wanted to explore, which is this piece of intuition with you, I think, is so strong. I'd love to hear about how that intuition has played in your development of your career and ultimately into building this business. How has that intuition played through your life?
Yeah, well, I talked a little bit about when my oldest daughter first went to preschool, and we found this school that felt very well aligned with me. In a Montessori classroom, you can walk around, have freedom of movement, gravitate toward what you want to work on. And so I was like, if this is for my daughter, maybe this is for me. And I went and got trained. I got my Montessori certification, and that included a long internship. So I really got my feet wet in understanding childhood development. The great thing about that is that it just made so much sense from Maria Montessori's perspective about going through a shift in our world's economy. When we actually go through a change, and at that time, she was helping parents through a shift from the farming agricultural age into the industrial age. And we were looking at farming is actually going to have tractors and it's going to have another way to produce. We actually don't need all these humans. So what are we going to do with our students? I was like, well, we're going to create schoolhouses. And Maria Montessori was on the forefront of that.
Wow, that was a long time ago then.
A long time ago. And she was really trying to create a solution for the community because at that time, parents were saying, we had all these children so that we could have plenty of farmers, but now we don't need them as farmers. What are they going to do?
And they were just them to be the labor force, essentially, yes?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
And because it was the turn of that era, they were like, oh, well, we're understanding we're moving into the industrial age. So what do we need for the industrial age? Well, we need to have classrooms. We need to have schoolhouse. We need to teach a curriculum. But what Maria Montessori saw in that is we don't want to create these little factory workers. We actually want them to have life skills. And so if we can have a multisensory approach, then we'll really be able to have different types of people that can fill different types of jobs. Well, as we very well know, it definitely didn't all go the way that Maria Montessori intended. And we have big, huge school institutions now that are very operationalized.
So you're saying it's ready for the new wave. So we did the first wave from farming to industrial revolution. I mean, we're like 4 waves later and our education hasn't changed. So what would you like to see the new wave for our education to be?
Well, as an entrepreneur, I think we are moving into a whole new era where businesses can really be innovative, and they have to have an ability to pivot and change quickly. And with that means critical thinking skills. What I want for my daughter is an ability to go to a school that's going to offer her some sort of training that she loves, that she wants to be a part of, that she wants to contribute the world, offer it to the world because she's in the world of service. And that's totally possible now because all of the technology can cover the other things that she doesn't need to worry about. And so it actually makes more sense that she came home from the university because she's like, that really would have been an expensive route that would have given me a lot of information that I can't even utilize. And so parents are I'm starting to see really quickly, like there's just a faster way for her to be able to have the life skills, to be able to be a critical thinking part of society and be innovative with creating solutions that all the technology can't.
So the proponents of traditional education are going to say, but what college does give you is critical thinking skills. What do you say to that?
It's such a big institution, it's going to take a long time to curb the curriculum. And there are schools that are making gigantic changes. And especially in elementary, early elementary, uh, that's really where we can gravitate toward more of a holistic approach
Mhm.
when we're not in class all day. And even for the university student, like we can have a hybrid solution where they're getting work hours in addition to classroom time.
You've mentioned that several times, the holistic approach. I am uneducated on education. Tell me what the holistic approach would look like and how it would be different than traditional schools.
Looking at the whole child means that we look at all different aspects of their learning abilities. And that includes our emotions and our socialization and our
Okay.
sensory processing, our ability to attend, pay attention. All of those things have an impact on our learning. So when we surround the child with sensory input and different situations to be able to play through scenarios, they actually learn through experience. And this is something like a key word that we're really connected to, which is experiential learning.
Hmm.
Very similar to the learning that I got as a young parent or as a child, where it wasn't something that I could learn from a book, but by going through the experience, I actually gained a whole lot more understanding. And
Okay.
that's what the Montessori method is really being able to have a tangible experience with all of your senses involved.
Okay. So instead of sitting in a room and learning math by doing worksheet drills, you are cooking and measuring and cutting recipes in half, like that kind of thing. Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about? Okay.
exactly. And if you even think of like the education you received in elementary around a digital clock or counting paper and coin money,
Hmm.
is that type of a curriculum going to be helpful for the future of our children who are just in a technological age, who are only going to be dealing with data?
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's very true. Okay, so and then on the college level, you're pushing against traditional sit in the desk and listen to the professor lecture and more into let's learn life skills, let's learn emotional skills, let's teach our children and our, teenagers how to listen, how to communicate. That's the holistic that you're looking for. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, that's
Yes.
exciting. That's really exciting and so needed.
Yeah.
More needed possibly than every child going through these math classes, these science classes, these English classes. So I can
Right.
see where you're heading. So talk to me about what you chose to do with your daughter who, she was home for COVID, struggling, pulled her out of regular traditional school. What did you end up doing with her, in conjunction with her?
With her, in addition to looking at the outside resources or the specialist, we spent a lot of time together at home. And I think a lot of parents can relate to this because it was the year of COVID.
Mhm.
We were isolated, and that's the miracle of it, is that we had an opportunity to slow down.
Mm,
And when we slowed down, we actually started talking and connecting.
mhm.
And the conversations were shifting because the world was shifting.
Mhm.
And when we started talking about different school opportunities or different work opportunities, it became so fluid that it became more of um, possibilities born in conversation rather than finding resources online or in a book.
It's less step one, step two, step three. What does this expert say to do? And more just this marinating space of sitting with yourself and sitting with people you love and talking through it. And that takes
Yes.
more time. It takes more time.
Yeah. And it's very healing.
Hmm.
We heard from so many parents during that time about what it was like to be the school teacher.
Hmm.
They had only been the parent, and a parent who had limited perspective on what their child was doing in a classroom.
Hmm.
I mean, how much insight do you have into your child's classroom? Do you really know what's going on all day for 6+ hours?
Mhm.
And then when that child is now brought into your home, you do know. You do know.
Mostly it's just a lot of structure because I was a school teacher. I taught junior high and high school English for about 3 years
Mm,
before I was a mom. And a lot of the day is spent in rule enforcement. There's like these daily routines that you do because when you have 36 kids in a class, that is what you need to do, or else you'll have absolute chaos.
right.
And it's not great. That was my takeaway from being a school teacher is
Mm,
I need to take my kids out of school whenever I feel like it. And so when I was raising my young kids, we had field trip Friday. The teachers
mm,
hated me, but I said, nope, every single Friday we're going to go on a field trip, just random places in the community. But I knew that what they were getting was a lot of structure and regiment and routine. And that does have value in training people how to be a really good, just go through the motions, punch a clock employee. But
mhm.
it's not what I wanted for my kids either. So
Yeah.
I did something different as well.
Yeah, and even knowing that the ball was in your court and that you
Mhm.
needed to find a solution, you went back to the education that you were trained in
Mhm.
or that you experienced as a child.
Yeah.
You know,
So, oh, go ahead.
and I was just thinking how incredible it is of this time right now where we're discovering that we don't want to do that anymore.
Yes, I think for adults as well, education for our kids, absolutely, we see a need to shift, and also for ourselves with our work routines.
Mhm.
How has COVID affected you in as far as work, what you wanted to do with work?
Wow, everything's shifted. We dissolved two businesses, we started two new businesses. Just the ability to be able to shift what you're focusing on
Mhm.
is so incredibly important for our next generation. And
Mhm.
I know you can relate to that as well. It's just right now looking at the opportunity that we have to be able to be entrepreneurs who have flexible schedules. It looks like I get to do yoga during the day. I get to do gardening. I get to go out to lunch with my wife or my daughter. I get to walk my dogs, and I get to integrate all of that into my day and still grow business and have my children be a part of my life in a way that I'm not stuck in an office. I'm not ignoring them. I'm not living the corporate life. It's liberating.
I love the passion in your voice. It gives me chills actually because I've experienced the same thing. I've thought I will never go back. Like I loved what I did. I adored my business and I will not go back to a 9 to 5. I don't think ever, right? Because
Ever.
once you feel that holistic living as an adult,
Yes.
we're like, this is what I want to do. And then
Yeah.
I can so see that it's shifting to our children as well. When I know I don't want to be in an office 9 to 5 sitting in a desk, why would I want my child to be sitting in a desk 8 to 3? And even
Exactly.
and children have even less patience than adults do usually, and we're just sticking them into a chair and saying sit there and learn. And so I would love to hear, tell us about Triton, tell us about what you want to do, how you see the vision for education in the future, what you want to do for parents. Tell us all that.
Yes, I have been really connecting these worlds of parents with children, teachers with students, and really looking at how we can get more heart centered and holistic in our approach. And what we've created are really great education solutions. We're providing tips for parents so that parents can just start integrating the tips that they're learning into every learning environment. And that helps our children develop skills so much faster and in a myriad of ways. Another thing that we are providing is a different type of schooling approach. So we provide education therapy, which really is this multisensory learning, but it can be accompanied with any type of education. So whether you're a homeschooler, a public schooler, a private schooler, an unschooler, it can definitely accompany any type of learning environment that you're already utilizing. And I think this is where the magic is, because I don't have it all figured out yet. And just like what we talked about with our children, we really don't want to get set in a way of saying this is how it's going to look. What we're committed to is really exploring this new world together. And when we connect as mothers and we connect as parents and we connect from our ancestors to our children, we're really healing a whole history of ways to educate our children that separated us into becoming really one and unified with our children as we create this new innovative world.
So I've worked with your company briefly. I've just started the process, and if I can share my experience, I had a phone interview. What do you call the calls? They're called like care calls or something.
Care and connect.
Care and connect. So I would not to be confused with Karen Connect. That's what it looks that sounded like.
Care.
We'll keep the Karens out. So it's Karen Connect. So I was on this call, and my counselor, therapist, whatever, I don't know what you call her, education specialist, what would you call her?
She is a parent representative.
My parent rep took me through a series of like a process of questions, and really said, what would your ideal situation be? So I have a 12-year-old with special needs. She is not, she looks normal, acts somewhat normal or age appropriate, but she can't do math, can't do science, can't do history, right? So sitting in a classroom right now, she's just sitting there, everything's going over her head, and she ends up just feeling really, really dumb. And the school's alternative is we can have her do that and fail all of her classes. Yay, that's such a great option. Or we can have her go with the special needs route with the kids who have Down syndrome and more advanced in their special needs, if that makes sense, and pretty much color, right? So we're going to be coloring and maybe working on a few life skills here and there, but not much. Those are my options as a parent right now. And I was so delighted to meet with your team because they said, well, what would your ideal be? And honestly, my ideal would be a small peer pod group, some younger, some older, variety of needs, special needs, normal learning kids in a group. And I would love it in my home. That would be my ideal. 5 or 6 kids coming into my dining room. That would be my custom crafted experience. And I'm working with your team to see if we can make that happen. So I'm really excited about that. Is that kind of what it is for everyone, or is my experience unique?
Your experience is unique, and other parents are also discovering it. Where we have just a small group, it started before COVID, but it really took off during COVID when we created these little bubbles of people that we were okay being in contact with. And maybe it was the neighbor friend or a couple little, people down the street. And these were our, they were in our bubble, and we felt safe. And this is kind of how it started, because we had some online learning, and then we had a lot of downtime, but that downtime could be accompanied with socialization, emotional regulation, having opportunities to explore and invent. And parents were like, maybe this isn't so bad. What just happened that we broke the mold?
Interesting.
So yes, you're discovering it. We're discovering it with you. And there are a lot of other parents who are also discovering it. And it's not one size fits all. We really can create it in any dynamic that we dream of. And when we have our education be more of a family focused decision, that's where it gets to be unique.
So talk to me about, so mine is a little bit unique then, where I'm looking for this home pod. Tell me what other solutions would look like.
Some other solutions within private and public school are maintaining your regular curriculum, maintaining the regular schedule, but having pull outs or push in opportunities with educational therapy.
Okay.
So similar to getting any other education support service. But there are charter schools, private schools, homeschools that are much more flexible, so that you don't have to wait until the end of your school day to be able to get the extra education support.
How is that different? Oh, sorry. How is that different from what the school already provides? Because the schools already do pull out support for special needs kids.
Yes, it's very similar to that. When you're in a public school and you qualify for a 504 or an IEP, we are doing very similar work in the evaluations that we create and the plans that we put together. So they don't differ too much from what a public school is already doing.
Mhm.
However, if your IEP or your 504 plan isn't cutting it, or the certain style of school doesn't really meet what you feel aligned with, that's where we can come outside of the school and find an environment that suits your child.
I'm going to ask you to redo that question, and this time don't say they're the same. Say they're different, and talk about how yours is better. So, yeah. So take that question from the top again. So let me ask that question again. So
It's like I don't want to burn the bridge because I have another company called IEP Ready.
mm,
And IEP Ready is partnering with public schools, and we are providing the compensatory service plan.
got it. Okay, so you're working with that, not against it.
Yes, and I
Got
don't want to like throw too much fire on the schools because I'm still their friend.
That makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Is there anything else you want to have parents know directly? Because essentially what I heard you say is we're the same as the school services. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I think it's okay. I see what you're saying. Because when we're just pulling out a student for special ed, we're hitting the academic needs. So we are doing something different there.
Okay,
Okay.
so talk to me about that.
Okay, we have a multi-sensory approach, which means we implement the social, emotional, sensory aspects into all of our education. That might mean that we put a picture schedule together, or we have more frequent breaks, or we create incentives that are going to motivate your child. So there's a lot of different things that we implement in our multisensory education therapy that differs from what a special ed service would provide in a public school. In addition to that, we really look at the environment. Where is the child learning? Who are they surrounded with? And how do we incorporate a parent? Because the more we can bring a parent into the services that we're providing and offer parent coaching, the more we can integrate those skills into different environments and really make sure that the child is flourishing wherever they're working.
I love the emphasis on parents. I hadn't thought about that before, but just seeing the parents during COVID try to, being one of them, try to help our kids through the homework, we realize how disconnected we are from our kids' education. And so this
Mm.
would put us right back in the mix and as part of them.
Yes. Well, one thing that we didn't mention was that the thing that pulled me out of private schools and being in Montessori was the inclusion opportunity that I saw. So I worked a lot with special education students, and I got into ABA therapy. And I really saw an opportunity to integrate this type of therapy into classrooms so that all children would be able to have access to the education.
Got to
It
stop you
would
there and ask you, what is ABA therapy? Because I don't know.
ABA stands for Applied Behavior Analysis. It's the one therapy right now that is um, mandated by insurance to cover for autism services.
Oh, okay.
So as we started working with that mandate and regulating what autism reform was between the children in our country and what our insurance was willing to pay, I actually got to witness what the regulatory demand changes were. And in
Huh.
the beginning, it was like the therapy was just offered. And over time, they said, no, parents actually need to be watching. And then
Uh,
a little bit longer, they said, parents need to be involved. And then what came out was parent training. Oh, parents need to learn these skills so that they can help incorporate them in more areas. And now, where it stands with most insurance companies and ABA services, is there's a requirement for 80% participation in all therapy hours.
wow. 80% of the time the parent has to be there.
Now,
Oh,
why do you think that is? And why do you think an
hmm.
insurance company would say they're not even going to fund it unless we can guarantee that that happens? And parents have to actually sign off on each session.
Wow. Can you imagine if parents were that integrated into all education and not just
Right,
for autism?
right.
Wow. That's really powerful. Is that where you see the future of education heading?
Yes. I mean, having like a whole family approach, a whole village approach, having everybody involved on what the behavior plan is or what the education plan is, it really creates so much consistency for the child.
I'm getting your vision, Jess. I'm getting your vision. Finally, here at the
Yay!
end, I'm like, okay, I can see this. The correlation, well, what helped me was the Montessori thing, seeing like, okay, we have the same education that we had back in Industrial Revolution times, right? That's amazing that it hasn't shifted at all. And then also seeing how liberated I feel as an adult during COVID without having the, chained to the 9 to 5 desk, and seeing how much even more our kids would need that. And then seeing, oh my goodness, this holistic, this whole family, this whole life approach to learning. I'm a fan. I'm officially on board. I love it.
Yay.
Final words you want to wrap up with. If you had one message that you wanted to share with parents who we've kind of went from parents who feeling like a failure as a parent into like the solution, which is beautiful, which is let's get more integrated as a family into the children's education, which is super cool. But if you had one message for parents who are struggling out there, what would that one message be?
That one message is connection,
Mm.
like a open heart connection with your child. It's a real opportunity that we have to not only heal ourselves, but to heal the world. And allowing that connection to explore being creative, explore being innovative, explore experiential learning together. It really is uh, the center of a new world that we're creating together.
And how do you do that? Most of our viewers are a little bit older. They'll have older kids. And so talk to me about what do you do? How do you integrate that with teenagers? Uh,
Mm.
Now the young babies are a little bit more grown.
Well, the same experience that you had, Kim, calling our parent representative, Pam. She will offer a free Care and Connect call. And really, it's a great time to really break down what education you've experienced, what environments you've utilized, what tools you've used, what you haven't used, and what your dreams are for the future, because we can customize a new education opportunity that works for you and your child.
Awesome. So that leads us to our giveaways. So let me go to our giveaway section here. Do you just want to talk about what giveaways you have? I know you have a 6 steps to end boredom. It's a e workbook. Will you talk about that for a second, Jess?
Yes, I've been inspired to write this book for a while, but it didn't come out until this year when I started looking at not only what I was going through with my own child, but what we were experiencing at Triton, listening to all the parents of my child is bored. And so really finding similarly to what I shared with me and my daughter, having more conversations, having an opportunity to sit together and explore. And this book is a really fun and interactive way to create that with your child. It allows you to move through several different steps in and you'll find out in the end that it's okay to be bored, and actually slowing down and connecting is where we all want to be.
Awesome. And how would they go get that, Jess?
You can go to Triton Support Services /EU workbook, and Kim will also put the link in her comments.
I will. I will be. Those will be in the YouTube comments. So that's perfect. As we wrap things up, I want to remind you that the goal of this podcast is to learn from others or just feel heard when life is coming at you hard. Know that all members of the human family are here with you. We are all going through it. And sometimes it just feels really good to know that you are not alone. We have a giveaway from our sponsor as well as from Jess. Our sponsor is Card Salad. Leave a comment about your favorite quote or your favorite idea that Jess has given you from the show and why you loved this idea. And I will pick my favorite each week and personally send you a free Eat Well starter kit. It's $150 value. And again, just leave a comment about your favorite quote or idea that Jess has given you. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to our listeners. This is Deep End No Floaties, and thank you in advance for giving us a positive review. Thank you so much.